to get you the answer. I am an independent insurance agent, so I sell for multiple carriers and try to find what's the best option out there, for a fair that's trying to get insurance. So with it, I only have a few slides. It's mainly bullet point types of things, and then ask questions whenever, and then let's discuss things. But there's basically three different types of insurance that you as a fair board or extension office would be looking at. The first would be the liability. So anytime the fair board is found liable or something happens, the county is found liable, there's a liability coverage there. Think of it kind of that covers the people anytime you're found guilty or not guilty, but liable. Property, so damage obviously to the structures, but also some of you will have contents that you maybe need covered, or gators and ATVs. There's lots of different things under the property side. The one thing that gets missed a lot is directors and officers. This would be like if a fair association, fair board wanted to have coverage, they could get it. And this would be somebody's complaining that they feel discriminated against, that you made that change, that rule, something, and they're suing the board. Being on that board and having this directors and officers, you would have that defense cost. And if you're found liable that you did do something like discriminatory, they could, pay out a claim. This is becoming bigger and bigger of an issue as people just want to sue for everything and anything nowadays. So lots of boards, like I insure school districts, cities, the fair boards, any of these that you're on those, it's good to know that you have that coverage just in case somebody is coming after you as a person and in the decision that you made. So some stuff on who's responsible, just some things to think of. Everybody's fair, like they were saying earlier, everybody's fair is completely different. Doing this, I think this is my third or fourth time being on this. And it's really interesting talking to everybody about how different everybody's setup is and then how their fair is. So some of you have, say, a demolition derby or homegrown carnivals or carnivals that are the ones that are traveling all over the United States. You got vendors, food vendors. Most all of us have food vendors. And then you have your county, like my Riley County where I'm at. It's a real interesting spot because the place is owned by the county, but then you also have school district, you have the fair, you have the extension. There's just a whole lot of hands in it. And it's always that question of, okay, who's responsible for this? So one of the things with doing any of these types of events or having anything is you need to make sure that there is proper insurance in place. So one of those things is called a certificate of insurance. It's a piece of paper proving that they had insurance the day that you asked for it. So if you have that vendor coming in that's serving, the fried alligator, do you have this proof of insurance that they have, that if they got half the people sick at the fair, that needs to fall under their insurance. If they don't have any insurance, it's coming back on you as the fair board or you as the county. And, because somebody got sick, they're going to be suing everybody that they can. So if you have this proof of insurance from your vendor or from that demolition derby organizer, that's putting that on, that's not part of the fair board, then that they have coverage. You can make sure their limits are high enough and you can take care of a lot of that stuff before anything bad ever happens. When they provide you a certificate of insurance, this make sure your fair is listed in the bottom left corner. There's too many people that'll just give you a blank certificate. So at the very bottom, it's blank and they're just handing it out. So they could get a certificate today from me and then they cancel their insurance tomorrow. They're handing out these blank certificates because how it's done properly is they will contact me going, hey, Lance, I'm going to be selling food at the Central Kansas Free Fair, and I need a certificate. The dates are this to this. I then provide them a certificate, and I put on there the Central Kansas Free Fair and the address. And I put that at the bottom and send it to them so they can get it. So make sure you have somebody asking for those and kind of looking at them just to make sure. best is to be listed as an additional named insured. So what this means is if the fair board is listed as an additional named insured, then you fall under their insurance. So that person does make everybody sick and they're suing you and that vendor, you are now under their insurance policy. So say they have Travelers as an insurance carrier. Travelers will not only defend them, they'll also defend you because you're named as an insured on that policy. So it's just a little checkbox on there for that person, but that makes so that you know you're covered too under that same company, and you don't have to turn a claim in under your own policy. So here's just some different things. Me traveling around and seeing some different ones. These things, if they are not held by your fair board, your county, then it's something that you probably should get that certificate for. So, for example, the rodeo at Manhattan is considered basically an entertainment act for the Riley County Fair Board. So we require them to provide that proof of insurance that they have to host that rodeo and to make sure, somebody, grandma falls down the bleachers, it's going to go under the rodeo's insurance and not our fair board and county policy. So here's just some different ones that I know some of you do. On property insurance, if you're dealing with your insurance, you are going to see some major increases. You've probably seen it on your home and auto insurance. So I just put this slide in this year to kind of explain what the state of the insurance world is like right now. Every insurance company out there is buying reinsurance. So they're buying insurance from a bigger company. I put West Bend on here because they're actually a company I write a handful of fairs with that they're comfortable with writing them. Their reinsurance policy that they're buying went from $17 million to $30 million last year. That was how much of a premium increase they had. And their deductible went from $10 million to $75 million. So last year, they said they had 6 storms come through and damage properties and stuff. That cost them over $100 million more than they would have had in the previous year because it would have hit that deductible of that $10 million. But every one of those storms went over the 10 million and did not even touch the 75. And so they had to pay it out over $100 million more than they would have in years past. So obviously, they have to stay in business by being profitable. They're going to pass those rates on to the people that are buying insurance from them. This is what you're seeing from any of your homeowners, auto insurance. This exact same scenario happened with every one of them this last year. And that's why we're seeing such a major increase. They're also being very picky on property, especially because that's in Kansas. We're seeing windstorms, hailstorms like crazy. Hopefully not tonight, but they are coming out and just saying, yeah, that building there, we don't like how old it is. We're not covering it anymore. Go somewhere else with it. It's kind of that you're not even able to talk to them about it anymore. It's just, here's what our guidelines are. Too bad. Go somewhere else. So like I think Jill was talking, as you guys have your budgets, look to upgrade those buildings. I wrote a fair this last year, and one of the big things that they had to upgrade before I could even write them was the breaker box in every single building. There is a brand called the Pacific Fire. The breaker boxes out there that everybody put them in. It seemed like probably 30, 40 years ago. Maybe it's been longer than that, 80s. That it doesn't trip when it's supposed to. It doesn't trip, so the fires happen. So every insurance company out there now knows not to insure a building that has this breaker box in, but it's like everybody put those brand of breaker boxes in, and so everybody's having to replace it. It's not a big deal having an electrician come out and a new breaker box isn't but a couple $100. It's just people need to know to make that upgrade as they're trying to update their buildings. So went through pretty quick. I want to leave enough time for questions because I figured if you're coming into this session, you probably have some specific things that you want to ask about. And so what kind of questions do you have?
Hey, I have a question. Lance, this is Chip Swan from Fort County. Hey, I was at a fair a couple years ago. It wasn't Fort County, but the grand champion swine was in the barn, and actually it was before it got voted, but everybody knew it was going to be grand champion, and it ate a stick that was in the shavings that they provided, and well, grand champion is bacon now.
Yeah.
So as a fair board or even the 4-H, who covers that insurance for that animal?
So there is some fair boards that will go out and get, like Hartford's a company out there that I can provide a quote on the livestock that's at the fairgrounds for say that week long of the fair. For us, for example, we transport our pigs after the show. We're transporting them to the different meat lockers, and so we could have coverage that if I rolled the trailer with 20 head of hogs in there that didn't make it to the meat locker, the fair board could have coverage for that. So now in that situation, even your liability, if they say, yep, you're liable, then your liability would pay on it. But Hartford is more, think of it as like a mortality that it dies from heat, it dies from different things. You turn in a policy. It'd be the fair board covering that cost. I guess you could put it back on the 4-Hers if you wanted. In that situation, though, I mean, what ended up happening? Did they find them anybody liable, or did they just say that's the risk of bringing your pig to the show?
Well, nobody had insurance. I think
Okay.
the 4-Her had insurance,
Yep.
but I know they were pretty torqued, of course. But
Yep.
what's just I'm not asking you for a real number, Lance. What are we talking about for 70 animals for a weekend? That's cows, pigs,
Yeah.
goats.
It was literally, I want to say, because Greg McClure actually had me do a quote. I want to say it was like $8-9 a head to
Yeah.
cover them for, our fair is like Thursday through Monday is when the animals are actually there. It seemed like that was a couple of years ago I ran that, but it's not too much. I mean, if you send me an email, I can shoot Hartford a quote and see what it is. But
I'm new to my fair board. I know we have insurance for transportation of the animals
okay,
away from or after the
yep.
sale is complete, and animals are still there. But I just don't know if it covers Thursday through.
Why they're there? Yeah.
All right. Hey, thanks, Lance. I'm
Yep.
out.
Yep. Nope. And one of those too. I mean, on the 4-H'er side, I can endorse a policy for a 4-H kid for very, very little dollars, like $15 for the whole year, and they could have their 4-H animals covered on a farm policy. I mean, there's places that if you're buying, a high dollar animal and you're wanting, they could have coverage, but some of those claim situations you come into, it's like, okay, that's just part of the risk of you're coming to this show, things can happen, and so the fair board's not liable, for that situation.
Yeah. This is Mariah from Pot County.
Yep.
We have a building on the historic registry, so obviously it's old,
Yep.
but we can't do a lot because it's on the historic registry. How does that all work?
Well, the insurance company says we don't want to insure that, and Lance tries to find another company that'll insure it. There's companies out there. It's just you end up paying more, and you have to find that company that's willing to write it. But in that situation, yeah, they look at the year of it. They don't even care how nice of a building it is. They just look at the year of it and they say, nope, we're not writing it. And so then luckily I am an independent agent that I have the companies that you start contacting around. Okay, who's going to write this property, and where can we get coverage for it? And then it's up to the fair board of how much premium do they want to spend on a building, and how much risk do they want to take on their own? Because it's like I said, the property side it's getting high on the insurance side in Kansas. They're wanting us to take more and more deductibles, higher deductibles, and take more of the risk on. But we insure homes in Abilene that are on the historic. I mean, there's companies out there that'll do it, but it is a question that they ask all the time.
And my other question was, do you not then recommend using food trucks if they can't provide their own certificate of insurance?
If they can't, you could basically charge them a special event type of policy. You could take a policy out for them. So like I just did the Equifest there in Salina, and it's part of the booth fee. If you don't have insurance, they're going to charge you an extra $100, and they're putting insurance on you, and so that way they have coverage. But if they're a true food truck, they should have insurance anywhere they go, and that way they have the coverage. But you could pretty much force them to take one out. So, but if they don't have it, I would be kind of scared about it. Now you do get into the question of, okay, our 4-H stand is ran by the 4-Hers. Who's covering that, and that's where, like, on our side, it's covered under the Fair Board, the county's policy, when it's ran by the 4-H, the 4-H pop stands, what we call it, and stuff. It doesn't have its own policy, but you have, I don't know, School Creek Scoops come over for ice cream, then you need to get that proof of insurance from him, something like that. So, yep.
Think about. Thank you.
What else?
Yeah, Lance, this is Todd Schmidt.
Yep.
We do a special events insurance for the week of fair.
Yeah.
Out here in Tribune. We have several events that are off-site or off the fairgrounds. The turtle race, the parade,
Yeah.
Some other things, and so that kind of covers that for spectators and things like that. We don't allow food stands. We just have the 4-H fair kitchen, and then the carnival has their own kitchen. That's how we get by with that. And I was going to mention the chip too. What we do, we don't, buy any insurance for animals or livestock, but we try to keep, a little cushion in our junior livestock sale account. If we happen to have an animal that, comes up dead for some reason, we can at least afford to pay that exhibitor, fair market value if we can for that animal. But we don't provide any insurance for that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's actually, I think, what Pottawatomie County does as well. There's a little kitty out of that premium sale fund for dark cutters or, and mortality, something that comes up that, and kind of self-insure that way a little bit. Maybe, Lance, I have a question. While you probably can't say where, nor am I asking that, what would be some examples the last few years of insurance claims that have come back? You talked about all these areas. Can you give any specific examples where claims have gotten filed, that whether they're unique or routine?
The main ones that I've had has been on the storm damage, wind damage to anything. I really haven't, since doing this from 2011, I really haven't had any kind of liability claim or even a DNO, directors and officer claim on a fair board. Definitely get them on like the city policies and stuff like that. But it's pretty much been wind damage. I think probably about the extent of it, really. So, because
no spectator got run over by a turtle in the turtle race.
Nope, none of that. I did have just a horse show going on.
Yeah.
And a little girl that was in the horse show, she wasn't really in control of her horse, and she kept riding up on another horse. And eventually that horse got tired of it and kicked her, and it caught her in the eye and broke her eye socket. And she had to go to Children's Mercy really quick. The kid that the horse kicked, or the rider of the horse that actually did the kicking, her farm policy looked at it all, and they decided not to pay anything. And they said, that's just the risk of being at a horse show. And you take that risk as soon as you go into the arena with all those others. And so nothing was paid out. That little girl's health insurance. I'm guessing they had health insurance or something like that would have paid for her, all of her injuries. And the organizer putting on the show and stuff like that, they weren't, there was nothing, they weren't liable or anything like that either. So, but that was one, like the rider. I mean, they felt horrible, but it's also, it's just one of the risks of being at a show. Mariah, what'd you have? What were you gonna ask?
Talked about storm damage. Pot County allows campers up at the fair. If the storm comes through during that time, does it cover are we liable as the fair board for those campers or the camper owner?
Yep. Nope. You would not be liable. The only thing that people are going to throw a fit about. So say part of the roof of your new show barn flies off and hits my camper. They're going to scream and say everything that, that was your building that blew into my camper and damaged it. You need to pay it. Well, it's not like you guys went and undid all the nuts and let that roof come off. It's part of the act of God type of thing. You're not going to be found liable. They're just going to have to turn in a claim to whoever is insuring their camper. So we get that quite a bit, especially with like people burning out here. Todd, they probably don't burn. My wife's from Leota. They probably don't burn out there like they do here. That we get that all the time. A burn gets out of control, and as long as they did everything they could, they're not going to be found liable, even if it burns your house down. But that's where that comes. They will definitely throw a fit if any of your property damages them. But you're not responsible for any of their stuff. And with yours too, I mean, you have the alcohol involved. You have the late nights and stuff, and that's stuff where how's the fair board responsible for any of that? And so you might have to turn in a claim, and they're going to pay say $40,000 to go defend you at court, but it's not going to be anything that you should have to pay out. And Todd, does your homegrown carnival have its insurance out there?
Yeah, I'm not sure where they get it through, but I know it's a costly, pricey thing for them.
Yep.
Just to run 3 days.
Yep. It is.
Lance, what are we talking about? What's the spectrum? I know there's a lot of what ifs in here because facility differences and everything. What are typical premiums that you're seeing for that are being paid now by different county affairs, so county boards for insurance?
That varies drastically. I insure one place that it's all under one building. They just have one livestock barn, and so they only have, I think they built it for like $300,000, this facility. And so compared to like Pot County, where we've got multiple buildings, you're talking just a big variety of amount of coverage. And so it's more, it'd be hard to compare apples to apples on any of them. Like Tribune, Leota, for example, not too far from them. They're close in vicinity, but the amount of structures is different. And
sure.
Yep.
Sure.
Okay. Property adds up.
Yeah. So we got 3-4 minutes left before we'll probably start to get a countdown to get kicked back to the big group and then re-choose a section. What other questions you have?
Jill, did you have anything, or I bore you?
No, you did good. I'm wondering about extension offices with equipment that we would take out there. We have like our inland marine or whatever. Are we all covered with equipment that we would be taking to fair with us?
Yeah, as long as your inland marine has enough coverage, yes. That inland marine really covers that property anywhere in the United States that you take it. So you could take it with you to a meeting in another state, and you still would have coverage on that item if it got stolen. Or it'd just be what your deductible is and making sure you have enough. But yeah. Nothing else?
Has the amount of companies that offer this, is that continuing to get narrower, or is that about the same where you have to price them through?
It's getting narrower. And one main reason is most of us are not able to full blown get a new building put up.
Mhm.
I mean, we're trying to put the Band-Aids on and make our buildings last as long as we can. And so when they sit here and they're looking at every building being built in 1980, that bothers them. You know, the liability side, no, that's usually not too big of a deal, but it's the property side that has everybody going, no, we have no desire to do that. So
Mhm.
if all of us could have the money to go build brand new facilities, it would definitely open it up.
But where's that gonna take us? Cause there's a lot of counties that have those. And they're not on the horizon to have a building upgrade, right? They're gonna continue to perform good maintenance on those buildings. Where's that put a lot of these fairgrounds in 10 years from now that probably aren't gonna change?
It puts them at, they have to make that decision of, are we even going to carry insurance on it? It's going to be so expensive for them that it's not worth it. I mean, I walked away from a dairy that's going to self-insure $7 million worth of property just because of what the premium was going to do. So they're going to carry liability. They're going to carry auto insurance. They're going to take the risk that their buildings are get damaged. They're going to pay for it themselves. And it's where it's forcing all of us on the fair side.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, thank you. Since you're all getting kicked out.
Yep. Thanks a lot, Lance. We appreciate it. And yeah, we'll all be kicked back to the main session. Then you'll get to choose one of the other sessions. And Lance and I will do this one again. So